Chapter 4 of The Lavender Dragon. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Lavender Dragon by Henry Phillpotts. The Dragon Keeps His Word. About an open space, flanked with a forest on one side and sloping by abrupt declivities of thorn and furze upon the other, the inhabitants of Pongley were assembled. The elders of the hamlet stood grouped together, while the lesser folk surrounded the plateau and made an audience for the approaching struggle. Above 1,000 souls were gathered there, and they greeted the knight and his squire somewhat coldly as they trotted out upon the arena. Of the Lavender Dragon as yet appeared no hint, though from time to time this or that spectator, pointing to the air, cried that he was on the wing. But while many a delicate cloud, feathered with morning gold, swept westerly upon the wind, not one resolved itself into the foe. At 6 o'clock, concealing a growing concern behind the bars of his helmet, Sir Jasper took the field, and the great piebald steed galloped, caracoled, and curvetted handsomely. He made a noble picture, but the public was not there for horsemanship. The sense of a company turned against him. Hard words flew on Rainbarrow, and the knight began to experience a moral chill under his armour. What if indeed he stood convicted of an awful error? Among all those present, one only, George Pipkin, knew that his mistake was venial and centred in a blind trust, where trust had been folly. But the others would accuse him, and his squire also, of something far worse than credulity. Indeed, the few who had accepted his narrative now scorned themselves for doing so, and even the poor Treve's patience began to break down. Sir Jasper, with his back to the woods, drew rein, and considered how best to make his peace with a gathering body of opinion very unfavourable. He was just about to doff his helm and address them, when the poor Treve and others approached, and Jacob Pratt spoke uncomfortable words. "Sir Knight," he said, "if knight indeed you are, it is now apparent that you have played upon the goodwill and trust of well-meaning and kindly folk. You have lied to us and fooled us, and you are either a coward or—" Suddenly a chorus of loud cries stopped the speaker's mouth, and frenzied excitement broke out upon every face. "Look to yourself! He is there! He is upon you!" screamed the people, while children shouted and ran to their parents. Dogs barked and bristled. A fragrant scent permeated the morning breeze. In another moment the immense ambrosial beak of the Lavender Dragon poked suddenly from the coppice, and before Sir Jasper could defend himself, or George Pipkin aid him, the monster had picked up both knight and charger as cleanly, firmly, and gently as a trained retriever grasps a fallen bird. Sir Jasper and his terrified steed struggled to escape, but the dragon lifted his head, and they were now 30 feet above the herbage. Then, as the populace fled before him, the gorgeous but unsportsmanlike foe waddled hugely out upon the turf and spread his wings. They flashed as though they had been gigantic oriental umbrellas of state, and blinded the beholders, while in another moment the ancient saurian began to rise. Pipkin, with a wild oath, charged and swung Sir Jasper's mace, which he carried until the knight should have need of it, but he did not get to close quarters, for with a swift but sure flick of a tail his opponent swept squire and steed to the ground in utmost confusion, and before they could return to attack, the Lavender Dragon was on the wing. A few stones and quarter-staves rattled harmlessly against his purple stomach and fell back upon the heads of those who had thrown them, and then the great beast soared upward among the lights of a morning and soon dwindled a little star among the streaming cirri in the blue. All was over, and the baffled Pipkin, flinging himself again upon the earth, buried his brown face in the sward and wept like a child. The poor Treve himself sought to comfort George. "There is only one bright side to this unhappy incident," declared Jacob Pratt. "Your master has been proved a man of his word, and a knight without fear or reproach. Had his skill in arms been equal to his nobility of character, however, let that pass. He is not the first hero who has perished in a good cause. We will cherish his memory while regretting his inefficiency. And so home to breakfast, remembering always that God knows best." But George was not prepared to take this terrible misfortune lying down. Indeed, he rose immediately, dashed the tears from his eyes, and declared that in his opinion all was not quite lost. "I know better concerning the accursed thing than you do," he replied, "and there is more in this rape of a rare knight than meets the eye. The dragon is a traitor, as might have been expected, for never was dragon known who did not fight foul and aid his clumsy and brute strength with cunning tactics and treacherous strategy. But Sir Jasper is not dead. The brute picked up him and his horse with a great deal of care. Neither one nor the other was injured, save morally, and I doubt not they have been conveyed to some secret halt and haunt of a creature, there to be kept alive for its own purposes. It may torture him, starve him, and torment him in 1,000 ways to make a dragon's holiday, but one thing is certain, it will never fight him. The wretch is no fool, and very well knows that, put to test of open battle against a man of such incomparable powers as my master can display, it would soon be swept to destruction." "And what do you propose to do?" inquired the Portreeve. "I propose to make my way through the dark woods of Bloor to reach the entrance to the Lavender dragon's domain, to demand entrance on pain of a punitive expedition, and learn the fate of Sir Jasper, though my own life pay forfeit." All Pongley cheered the squire's determination, and with one accord the people crowded about George, clasped his hand, and wished him well. As the assembly proceeded from Rainbarrow homeward, Pipkin explained that existence without Sir Jasper held scant attraction for him. "I am not one of those fortunate men," he said, "who is a hero to his wife. My home, to be frank, promises no welcome worth mentioning. A saddle suits me better than my chair in the ingle-nook, and I prefer the sound of the winter wind to the voice of my spouse at the best of times. For that matter, they have much in common. In any case, did I return my own man with this appalling story, there would be few flags flying for me, I assure you. Therefore, give me a day's provender, and I will set forth to the woods and save Sir Jasper, or perish with him." An hour later, the old campaigner galloped off upon his self-appointed task, but he did not depart before uttering a promise to return and relate the facts concerning his master, if it should presently be within his power to do so. End of chapter 4.